doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
China has made clear on many occasions its firm opposition to illicit unilateral sanctions that have no basis in international law or the authorization of UN Security Council. Economic wars and maximum pressure are not the solution. On the contrary, they will only lead to escalation and risk spillover, which will disrupt the global economic and financial order and harm the legitimate interests of other countries. China's cooperation with Iran is conducted within the framework of international law and should not be disrupted. China is closely following the developments and will take all necessary measures to firmly safeguard its rights and interests.
Американцы прилетели на переговоры. Машина Министерства американского и плюс новости о том, что военный самолет прилетел во Внуково 1,5 часа назад.
Будемо рухатись. Ми отримали, не буду казати від якої з держав, підтвердження кількох систем ППО «Краталь» і ракет до них. І також ми отримали ракети АІМи. Це для нас дуже важливі ракети. Ми використовуємо, щоб збивати ракети ворога. Ну і, якщо чесно, також не буду казати, ну і ще трішки зайшло ракет «Петріот». Скільки, не можу сказати, але трішки. Треба більше. Треба більше. З нашими близькими партнерами, з нашими друзями. Сьогодні, як ви бачите, війна, вона повномасштабна війна на полі бою, і Україна робить все, щоб переводити війну в небо. Там, де ви можете не порівнювати з кількістю воїнів, а вже розраховувати на технології, дрони і ракети. І, якщо чесно, якщо Україна буде в НАТО, то це вигідно для всіх країн. І я думаю, які вже в НАТО, тому що менше ризиків у інших країн, що Росія буде починати агресію проти іншої країни НАТО, тому що в НАТО є країна з сильною армією. І для Росії це небезпечно. А поки ми не в НАТО, ми отримали, не буду казати від якої з держав, підтвердження кількох систем ППО «Краталь» і ракет до них. І також ми отримали ракети АІМи. Це для нас дуже важливі ракети. Ми використовуємо, щоб збивати ракети ворога. Ну і, якщо чесно, також не буду казати, ну і ще трішки зайшло ракет «Петріот». Скільки, не можу сказати, але трішки. Треба більше.
This evening. Be interesting to get your thoughts on Diana's report there and the fact that the UK government has told UK firms not to engage in economic activity with West Bank settlements.
Well, I think we saw another one-sided report. Unfortunately, it's not the first time we see it coming from Sky News that ignore the entire facts. We have rights to the land. It's not occupied land. This is our land. I can go back to the British mandate for Palestine or the Balfour Declaration. And basically, we have legal rights to the land, we have historical rights to the land, we even have biblical rights to the land. So to call us settlers in our own land, it's a disgrace. But let's look about the facts and about the future. The Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria are not going anywhere. They will stay there with the Palestinian communities. The question what you do to allow both communities to prosper, to live in stability, in security. And I think all the talk we hear now coming from the UK and other European countries, applying sanctions or threatening the Israeli government, it's not going to actually support what's happening on the ground. The bottom line, you have more than 2 million Palestinians living in Judea and Samaria. You have more than 500,000 Jews who live there, cities, communities, not the outposts you just show in your report. I'm talking about families, communities, big cities, and they will stay there. The question is what we do to make sure that both populations live safely there.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today. I've got a big show for you today. We're going to really try to give you some insight on what's happening because what is going on in the financial press, in the bond markets, which affects your mortgage and your car loan and your business loan and your student loans and all of that is really important. And I want to drill down into it today. And I've been talking with Tom Teague, and we wanted to really set the record straight. I just had him on recently, but we really need to get this message out. So we're going to do that in the second segment. The financial press is lying to you. And I think, and I was talking with Tom again, we think they want the U.S. to go down. And then we'll discuss all of that. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Thanks so much to whatfinger.com. Really post a lot of our stuff. Throw some back at them. Go back. Check out whatfinger.com. Great aggregator site. And you saw in Moscow the C-17 plane landing. Who's on it? And then the motorcade downtown Moscow to the Kremlin, I assume, for meetings. So very interesting stuff going on in the background. You saw Zelensky, pushing the Ukraine war still. China's getting worried about what's going on in Iran. And Israel is still, I feel like we're coming to some kind of conclusion on that whole question because both sides are gearing up for some kind of resolution in Israel. And I'm not sure if that's a violent one or what, but we will see. And in the second hour, we're going to talk with Bill Quinn about what's going on with AWEB in South Korea and give you more insight into the election fraud. We just had Chris Gleason on yesterday, and this is a follow-on to that. So much going on. Let's do the mission brief. Today is August 25th. Here's your mission brief. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Lebanese civil war fears. I mentioned that yesterday, but didn't get into it. I will later today. Evergreen goes to prison in China. The head of Evergreen, their real estate company that went down and took a lot of Chinese money or, mom and pop money with it. SCOTUS and the vote by mail ruling. Shapiro in Pennsylvania is working to get around the medical freedom laws so they can vax you when they want to. That's really interesting. And the voting and tax-exempt charities. All that is going to be discussed. We got a big show. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on the SCIF.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
The pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
All right, welcome back to the SCIF. I want to ask you to do 2 things right now if you are a new viewer. We have a lot of new viewers coming in from around the world, many from South Korea due to our AWeB coverage. So if you're new to the show, we need you to go to my.cdm.press and sign up for our no-ad subscriptions. It's how we fund ourselves. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. Pay the $100, get it out of the way. It doesn't bother you every month. And you are supporting free media and really the only place that I've seen that tells a lot of the stories that we tell. So please support us. We need your help in that area. Also, go to the Wellness Company, twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM, and you get 10% off. But spend some time on their site and support our sponsors. If you haven't got an emergency medical kit yet, you're probably wrong. You need to be protecting your family. So twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. You don't know what they have in store down the road, another pandemic or something, but they've got to stop this populist movement around the world. And we all know that, and that's why Shapiro's in Pennsylvania trying to force through the vax laws again through regulatory process instead of through the legislature. Very interesting. All right. We want to talk finance today. I'm going to bring in Tom. Tom, thanks for coming on this morning, man.
Sure.
So we were talking, and I wanted you back on. We just had you on, but I wanted you back on to talk about what's going on in the bond markets. It's pretty shocking to me that, one, everybody's ignoring what's actually happening, and number 2, they want the U.S. to fail. Am I wrong? What do you think?
Yeah, no, it seems that way. I mean, I'm amazed. Like, so Bessent has announced that he's going to up his operations on sort of buying bonds back for kind of liquidity purposes, but from $2 billion to $4 billion. And we spoke about that. There's a lot of bonds we also spoke about, and the market doesn't want to get this through their heads and convey this to people. But when the Treasury buys back bonds that have been issued with lower coupons in the past and yields have risen, the price drops. So those bonds are trading at a discount to where we issued them. When the Treasury buys those bonds back, they retire them as soon as they settle, and then they borrow more shorter term. But what effectively happens is if we issued, like, let's say $1 billion of a bond issue, that bond issue might be trading at 600 million. So if the Treasury buys $600 million worth of $1 billion issue, they don't have to pay back 400 million. They just have to refinance that 600 million that they used to buy it. So it reduces the debt stock by 400 million. So it amazes me that people are ignoring that, because that's a good thing because it reduces our debt stock, and B, they're angry that he's like affecting the bond market. And there's a lot of guys like, when he's made this announcement, they're talking about, he mentioned using the Treasury General account, which is, used to pay all kinds of things that the Treasury, it's like their current account that they can basically, pay out things for. He was mentioning using that. And the visceral reaction of people in the markets was they were angry that he's, impacting bond prices and they should be set by the market themselves. And like having lived through the great financial crisis, I'm like, there's so many people that want the US to blow up. You know, there's so many people in the financial markets that are like, look, I think the reality is we do have a spending problem in this country, but if you put the Democrats in power, they're going to spend a lot more money than we are. And that's for sure. That like their goals are to make, healthcare, basically completely state run. That's going to increase like our spending like you've never even imagined. So it's kind of like a nightmare scenario. And I think Bessent has come out and said, we're going to grow our way out of this. Right. But in order for us to grow our way out of this, yields can't be at 7-8% on the long term or 6%. So, I think that's, probably what he's doing. He's looking at that. I mentioned this before, but yields, bonds that are like 10 years and 30 years have as much real yield, which is the difference between where inflation is and where the yield is on the bond, than they have since like 2007. So,
meaning it's real cost to the borrower, right? I mean, it's
yes. And it's a benefit to the buyer of the bond because they're getting a return in excess of inflation. And, I just watching the reaction of people in the financial markets, Citadel put something out there yesterday. They were like, interfere. This is going to be bad. I don't for the life of me understand how retiring debt at a discount and refinancing it shorter term is a bad thing.
It's working. That's the problem, right? I mean, it's working, and it's upending their plans for destruction. Right. And I think what really scared him is he's saying, "I'm going to tap this large $1 trillion account." I think that's what freaked him out.
Yeah, because people who are out there that are short bonds, they've had an easy ride for a long time because we have a debt problem. Everyone knows it, and if there's any inflation, it's an easy trade to be short bonds, and they've made a lot of money. And I think you and I spoke about this, but during Yellen, when she was the Treasury Secretary and Powell was the Fed chair in 2022, the bond market underperformed equities. It was down massively, and they didn't say anything. They didn't say boo about it. They weren't concerned. And, for everyday lives of people, like with mortgages and, companies out there borrowing, they're like kind of pegged to the longer rate, stuff because they like to borrow like 10 years out, and mortgages are a big part of that. And, that really harms people in the US when long rates are high. So, I think it's great that Bessent's trying to do something about this. And I think it's like, I don't think it's unfair or it's ridiculous. I think it's smart to retire debt at a discount. I mean, you're reducing the debt stock. People
you mentioned before that rates are really important as we go into the midterms, especially for the election, economic growth, for the servicing the debt. We have to generate more economic activity. We're not going to get rid of this debt anytime soon. So we have to grow our way out of it, and interest rates are an impediment, right?
Yes.
And then they want this to blow up. I mean, that's obvious.
I think there's so many people out there looking at what the market's done over the last few years. I think there's a lot of these like macro funds and hedge fund guys are out there looking at what the market's done, looking at where our bonds are. There's a midterm coming. It's like people made a lot of money during the GFC being short the markets, and I think that there's a lot of people that are sort of on the side of I want things to blow up because I can make a lot of money, and I think that's frankly just very un-American.
Yeah. Well, and again, if we don't have any backstop here. They've been very effective in running up the debt, destroying our financial system. And if it blows up, we're done, as you've said.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
right?
we have 40 trillion. We crossed that mark last week in debt. The federal debt is 40 trillion. If we go into a recession, because rates blow up, right, we're going to have to borrow more money and we're going to have to run bigger deficits because that's the way it works. So that's really bad for us. And then we start getting in this vicious, cycle of we can't really get back out of it. And that's when all sorts of bad things take over, right? Well, and if you look at also the Democrats, like I mentioned this before, the biggest gains they've had in terms of getting power have been in the aftermath of the GFC and the and COVID, right? So like they're sort of rooting for something really bad to happen so that they can get power again and they can, put all their socialist policies in.
And get rid of all the small businesses,
it'll destroy small businesses.
You made the comment, basically making us all debt slaves. I mean, this is a recurring theme around the world, actually. I mean, you look at all this stuff that's going on, with the Chinese, debt enslavement of a lot of third world countries. You look at what's going on in Lebanon, where they had the Soros financial crisis in 2019, color revolution, which destroyed the financial system. I mean, this is a recurring theme that they use. It's a tactic, I think, in whatever they're trying to do.
It absolutely is. You get people to lever up to borrow tons of money, and then they can never pay it back, and then they're your slave, right?
Yeah, and you take all the assets, cents on the dollar, right?
That's correct. That's the game.
Well, what about all these influencers out there that seem to want the U.S. to fail? And this, especially, and I was not for this Iran war. We said it very vocally, but now we're in it. I don't want my kids to be, living in a situation where we come out of this in a really bad way and the country's reduced in power significantly because really bad stuff's going to happen to them in their lives. So what about all these influencers that seem to want the U.S. to fail in this conflict?
Yeah, no, I think there's actively, like, when Twitter started out and Elon Musk bought it, it was a way to get information that was otherwise censored. I think that, Iran, the left has figured out that what they can do is they can appear to be, right-wing influencers, or they can buy up and pay influencers to say stuff. And it's amazing to me again that, you've got all these guys that are coming out. I mean, on Twitter, basically, it's all blaming the Jews. It's all blaming, like Trump is doing this. It's like they want, and they forget about what the world was like when Biden was president and how messed up everything was, right? Yeah. And so I think they're just trying to put a wedge in the conservatives and trying to get people complacent so they don't go out and vote in the midterms.
Well, that's obvious. If the Trump agenda is the target, and there is foreign influence in our government, not just Israeli. There's Ukrainian, there's Iranian, there's
Don't hate the player, hate the game. I mean,
but they're taking that nugget and they're using it to like bring down the Trump agenda. That's what I
correct.
Yeah.
And like, everything, like, look, and you and I have spoken about this before. I mean, say what you want about Israel, but they're a better ally to us than a lot of the European countries are, right? And the fact of the matter is that they're using an opportunity to influence our government the same way every other country in the world does at some point, if they can. China does it, Ukraine's doing it. Like it's the way our system's set up. I mean, our elected officials are basically, for auction. And but I think there's a clear agenda to try and get everyone mad at Trump and use this Iran thing. I mean, no one knows really what's going on in Iran, right? Like, I'm with you 100%. Like, I wasn't like a huge fan of going in the first place and doing what we did. But now that we're in it, I want the U.S. to come out ahead, and I want us to come out with goals achieved, because we never did in the other wars, right? But we're really arguing with our own people about this, and they're just trying to make Trump lose the midterms. And then if Trump loses the midterms, there's a good chance that this stuff with, Iran we lose. We really lose, right?
Well,
So
it's not just Iran, and I don't want any more forever wars. I've been very vocal
no,
about that.
absolutely not.
But it's the Trump agenda. It's elections. It's which we need to fix, which haven't been fixed. It's a Marxist revolution. It's the communism in our schools. It's the energy situation. It's Canada infiltrated by the CCP. It's the hemispheric defense.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
It's the Golden Dome. It's NATO trying to pull us into World War III, which right now you saw in the cold open, someone's in Moscow talking with Putin, hoping to end this thing. That's all going away. I mean, if they come back in, we're going to World War III in Europe. I mean,
I know, which is
fact.
Absolutely.
So they've come out with a very clever way to take down the Trump agenda.
Yeah, correct.
So it's interesting. What else? Anything else?
Well, I saw that beef prices, that live cattle has finally come down. Still like in an 80th percentile, I think, over the last 5 years. But there are a lot of people that were very angry about Trump allowing to import Argentinian beef. And again, that was another way of like trying to put a divide in the conservatives. I mean, look, I was in the beef business, and it's a tough business right now, but it's really tough because the price of cattle is so high, and we're trying to rebuild our herd. So like, I know that everyone gets upset by the fact that Trump's importing beef from Argentina, for example, and they're like, oh, well, China had to turn it back because there were like some bacteria in it, or they were using some kind of antibiotic that China didn't want. I mean, this is China, right? They are the ones that made COVID. So, but I think he's probably doing a very short-term fix. It's a complicated supply chain in beef, and some of the beef that's coming in from Argentina and Australia is very lean, and it gets mixed with the excess fat that we have in this country, and that goes into burgers, and it mostly goes into like fast food restaurants. So it's not like I would encourage everybody who's watching this to buy US beef and buy it from your butchers and buy it from people that the origin from. Like, most grocery stores don't even have to put the origin of the beef on there. That's like a law. That's way before Trump. So But I think he's doing the right thing. And I think that if we want to solve the problem with very expensive beef, we need to get the price of cattle down. And that's going to mean growing the herd, and it's going to take a little longer, which if we're importing beef, it doesn't mean that we're going to cull as many cows, so that it's better for the herd.
So how did the herd get destroyed? Was it all this fake, I don't know, mad cow culling? And
there was some stuff that was going on with, cows getting sick. There was some stuff that was, when we had COVID, a lot of animals were basically slaughtered because, restaurants, I think, are about 20% of the consumption of food, right? So when COVID came and they shut down all these restaurants, a lot of farmers couldn't carry the cost of having to feed all these animals that they weren't going to be able to sell. So they sent them to the slaughterhouse, right? Or they sold them. And so, that coming out of COVID, and this is one of my big criticisms of the Fed, instead of allowing the supply chain to build back up, they started raising rates very quickly, and we didn't get that buildup. So we're still kind of chasing our tail, trying to get to where we were pre-COVID in terms of the herd size. So, that's something that's going to take some time.
Well, obviously, food security is being targeted as well. I mean, a lot of this is highly nefarious. I mean, you look at what happened in Florida, where I can remember as a kid going down to Disney World with my grandparents, and there were orange fields everywhere. They're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was due to some kind of, I think, Chinese bioweapon influence, where they put this, pest in there, which destroyed the entire.
Well, they definitely do that to us.
Yeah. And I think the beef thing is very similar. I mean, they want to control us with food. I mean, that's very, very obvious in my opinion.
Well, I mean, look, it's also a big inflationary item, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a foreign government who's hostile toward America, like the CCP, that if you cause inflation, and we've got $40 trillion of debt, it's going to hit us pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
So why not do it? And one of the ways of doing that is to make food scarce.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, I didn't invent that. It's just an obvious thing. And that's basically, if you go back to COVID, like coming out of COVID, China opened up 15 months after we did.
Yeah.
They didn't need to wait that long, but they did. And in my opinion, because that made prices go up. It made the supply chain go down. And when we opened and all that demand came, it drove prices up very quickly. And then here we are. We've got, Powell raised rates up to 5.25%, and we're back down. Fed funds is at like 3.25% now. And
do you think Orange is going to cut or raise, or where do you think this is going to go?
Well, I think the Fed's so divided, and it's so politicized right now that you've got a lot of guys in the Fed who honestly want Trump to fail. I think if rates did get cut, I think the economy would boom. I think we'd have this so-called golden age. But I think that's really the hurdle that we have to go through. And I think, right now it went from tariffs, and that part of the Fed didn't want to lower rates because they said tariffs is going to cause inflation. And then, now it's oil, and now it's Iran, and oil price is going to move through. I mean, the good news is I think that it looks like within this stuff, the oil price is actually not affecting some of the other items. So it doesn't look like we're getting this runaway inflation right now, which is a positive. But I think the market is probably too bearish on what the Fed's going to do. I think that in time they will probably cut rates, and I just don't think the Fed's going to want to raise rates right now in this environment. It doesn't have anything to do with the election. It's just the economy's pretty fragile, and if you start raising rates right now and we go into a recession, then the government starts borrowing a lot more money. And next thing you know, we're at 46 trillion. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's president, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Tom, thank you very much, man. We'll have you back in the road. Really appreciate it. All right. Take care.
All right.
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, Your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to talk about a few stories real quick before we do that. It's time. It's happening in my family. Kids going back to college or going to college for the first time, they need to be outfitted. So where are you going to outfit them? Don't go to the big box retailers. Go to mypillow.com. Use promo code CDM. You'll get the best discounts. And check out what Mike has on the website, mypillow.com. Check out the slippers, for instance. Your kid's going to need to go to the bathroom in the dorm. Check out the towels, the sheets, the bedding, the bathrobes, all of that stuff that Mike has on mypillow.com. Check it out and outfit your kids with a pro freedom company than going to one of the big box retailers. That literally, I had some sheets from China. I bought at one of those places, and I washed them once, and they turned from blue to yellow. So you don't want that. Get some high quality stuff at mypillow.com. Use promo code CDM. Also, Nucleo Boost. You saw Brendy there talking about how to help your body heal itself. And if you go to cdmnutrition.com, that's cdmnutrition.com, you can see everything about Nucleo Boost. It's developed by Brendy Wells and John B. Wells and Dr. Waterman, who we've had on many times and we'll probably have back. But it gives your body everything you need at the cellular level to make sure you can function and your immune system works as advertised. So it's literally like feeding your body what it needs at the micro level. And it comes in a powder or in a capsule. And you don't need all these other pills, just one per day, and you get everything you need. So cdmnutrition.com. I want to talk about a few stories. This one in Lebanon is huge. It's a breaking exclusive of ours. I mentioned it yesterday, but I was remiss in not getting to this story. So, Lebanon is divided into multiple different religious and ethnic sects. You have the Christians, the Sunni Muslims, the Shia Muslims, the Druze, the Jews and others, some Jews there. But the main issue is Lebanon has been, attacked by demographics for some time now. You had 500,000 Palestinians brought in the 70s, which turned Lebanon from the Paris of the Middle East to what it is today. It destroyed the demographics. It caused the civil war, and that 500,000 Palestinians was brought in intentionally. Then you had the Bush administration, the father, George H.W. Bush, agree with Syria to allow them to invade Lebanon if they join the Iraq War, the first Gulf War. So that was a second kind of impact. You had lots of Syrian Shia people coming in. You had Syrian troops in Lebanon, which were eventually kicked out. But then you had the Soros financial crisis. Then you had the Syrian civil war, where you had 2 million upwards of Shia refugees coming into Lebanon from Syria. So all of this is, Sunni refugees. So all of this is continuing, but what you have now is a spark that may start another civil war, which we're hearing from people on the ground, is that there were a lot of Sunni terrorists who killed and maimed and raped a lot of Christian and Shia people in Lebanon over a decade ago. They've been in prison for some reason, have never gone to trial, but they are going to be released because the Lebanese prisons are overcrowded. So the parliament has voted to release them. And disturbingly, one of the main Christian parties, the Lebanese Forces, has joined the Sunni power bloc to allow these people to be freed from prison. This could cause a civil war in Lebanon. It's disturbing. There's obviously some kind of support in the region for this Sunni power bloc from Syria, Turkey, etc. But the problem is the Christians, and I have a problem with that, but the Christians always get thrown under the bus. So now you have terrorists being released into the population that could harm the Christian population. It's been one of our main reporting points. We've been over there many times, and we have sources on the ground there. So you can find this article on cdm.press in the headline. This one is China, the head of Evergreen, which was a real estate company in China, which collapsed and brought down a lot of mom and pop investors with it. He's going to prison for life. It seems like he's a scapegoat, but because it was the system in China that allowed this. But anyway, that's a thing. You can find that on CDM. This one big yesterday. The Supreme Court agreed on Trump's mail-in ballot overhaul. So that could impact the midterms, obviously. You can find this article on CDM. You can read through it all and understand the particulars. But this was a big win for freedom, for the administration, and for the America First movement, essentially. So again, something really important. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania is looking to use regulations to remove medical freedom protections. So he wants to vax you and do all these things to you, create a database about you, but he's trying to do it with regulatory action instead of the laws, because the laws were passed after COVID to prevent that. So this is something you need to be aware of, especially in Pennsylvania. They haven't given up on this control mechanism, which is the vaccines. That's obvious. And then the last one I want to make you aware is that a lot of charitable organizations have been being used to basically as vote harvesting operations. So you can read this on cdm.press as well. And we bring out stories that you may not see anywhere else, but it's important that you understand and you're not fed by the machine that is the media and social media on X, et cetera, that gives you garbage. I look on X and it's all videos of, animal videos and dog videos, and they present stuff. You really have to work hard on X to only see what you wanted to see. You have to go to your following button and people you specifically follow, but even then you see garbage that you don't want to see. So they are working hard with control of social media and control of the media to censor you and not let you find out what's happening in the world. And that's why CDM is so important. So put cdm.press in your daily scan. The best thing you can do for us is give us a few clicks a day. And that way you help grow us. And sign up, please, for our no ad subscriptions. I'll say it again. Go to my.cdm.press. Please, if you haven't done that, we need the financial support and you get something. We are putting out a lot of content, and we've just ramped up a new advertising provider. You're going to see a lot more ads across the network because we have to survive. But if you don't want to see that, it's $10 a month or $100 a year. Pay it, get it out of the way. And you can click from site to site on CDM all over the world, and you don't have any ads pop up, no video ads, no display ads, etc. So please help us with that. All right, we're going to take a break and then come back, and we're going to talk with Bill Quinn on AWeB, which you may not know about. If you've been watching us, you probably have an inkling, but you need to know more. So we'll be right back after this.
First time ever, we're bringing you MyPillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our MyPillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our MyPillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
I'm watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another. And I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mix it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man. He'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret.
All right, welcome back to the SCIF. I forgot to show you something. This is Zelensky getting some people visiting him recently, and that's Senator Blumenthal and Senator Langford of Oklahoma. Blumenthal's from Texas, Da Nang Dick. So you have U.S. senators outing themselves as supporting the death machine, the satanic rituals going on in Ukraine to cleanse the area of the Christian population. So we find this horrific, but you need to be aware of that. These are people that are not on our team. On that note, I spent some time with Bill Quinn on Sunday on the Georgia Show discussing AWeB in South Korea, and I want our viewers to see this because you need to be aware of what's going on. The elections are the issue, and this is a much bigger thing than just the U.S. elections. It's global, and it's a structure to take over the country. So in the world, global power, that's globalism. So here we go with Bill by subscription. Let's get rolling, Bill. Back to you.
Okay. All right. So as I said, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Douglas Frank. Many folks here in Georgia have had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Frank during presentations in the last 5 years. We were fortunate enough to have him on several occasions. I've met him briefly twice, and I asked if we could get together and talk about these latest findings with South Korea because I knew he had been there. And he was very gracious with his time and spent just about an hour with me going through the details. We're going to show you some excerpts today, and then I will invite and encourage you to listen to the full interview that is available on Rumble, on X, and probably will be copied to other places by the time you go to look for it. So with that, let me go ahead. I'm going to play you these excerpts, and then we'll comment after each one to make sure that you're paying attention to what's important.
So Hwang Kyo-ahn, the former prime minister of South Korea, came to CPAC, and he gave a 10-minute speech, and that's his on the right there, that's his translator, Jennifer. And he basically said, hey guys, we're in trouble in South Korea, please come help. America, we need your help, please come help. And the next couple of weeks, Mike Lindell called me and said, hey, I've met with Hwang Kyo-ahn, we're forming a joint team. Would you please serve on that team? A team to investigate election fraud in South Korea and in America. And basically, that's all I knew. That is it, that there was going to be a team. And so the next day I was on a Zoom call with the team. That's Jennifer again, she's the translator. And then Cho Hyun, Attorney Park is his name. He is like the Dr. Frank of South Korea. So he and I immediately connected. He's been working on election fraud there for the past 6 years, like I have. And at the end of the Zoom call, I asked him, I said, so, because we talked about my skills, what I have to offer. And I said, so would you like me to come help with your elections? Because they have their elections in June. And we were talking in May. And they said, yeah, we'd love it. Can you come tomorrow? And I'm like, whoa, I've got all these commitments. I'm not sure I can make it. And so I had to rearrange a bunch of things, but I dropped everything, rearranged, and flew there. And I met with them. And I was shocked what I found. I had no idea. They have exactly the same problems we have. I arrived that day. They asked me to come incognito. Usually I wear patriotic garb, but I arrived incognito, and I arrived that day with Morse Tan, the former ambassador. Was one of Trump's ambassadors, an ambassador at large. Trump appointed 3 of those. They can speak on behalf of America all around the world. And he also arrived with me. We were there to observe the 2026 election. And what shocked me was there were a group of podcasters there, about 15 of them. And the first question from the first podcaster was, Dr. Frank, when is America coming to save us? And I'm like, what? I didn't realize it was in this bad of a shape. And they had prepared all this promotional material. You can see the umbrella there, and I was signing autographs. I'm like the American coming to rescue them. And I'm like, all I did was get on a plane and fly there. Okay. There are banners hanging everywhere. US Korea, stop the steal. We're working as a team. And I was a guest of the Prime Minister, Hwang Kyo-ahn, and his wife, Choi. What amazing people, by the way. In my life, I've met a lot of people. These 2 are near the top of my list. Amazing human beings. But I worked with the team there. We observed the election. But during the election, I arrived the day before their early voting. They have 2 days of early voting, Friday, Saturday, and then election day on Wednesday. And I arrived there. And during that period, they're not allowed to speak in public. So I and Morse held press conferences, and in that press conferences, and then we held television interviews. I was on this interview. Han Gil is one of the most popular. While they don't watch TV much, but they all watch streaming online shows. And this guy Han Gil, while I was being interviewed by him, there were 1 million people watching live. I mean, that tells you how popular they're. And it's all on X. They love this stuff on X. And
okay, so. You should have heard several things out of that dialogue. One is they came, the former prime minister came to CPAC in March. They already knew they had a problem brewing, and we're going to talk about how they knew that. But they knew they had a problem, and they called in the troops because they believed that we are not quite in the same position, yet we are moving in that same direction. And you'll hear this relayed from Dr. Frank in just a few moments. Listen to how many people were involved. South Korea has about 50 million people living in it. 1 million people tuned into that broadcast. 1 million out of 50. Can you imagine if anything that we did, anything that any election integrity group did in the US got that percentage of participation? We would see a much different profile. So we're going to move on. He's going to talk about how he was perceived and what he discovered about their organizations once he was on the ground. Let's listen.
The first question Han Gil asked me was, when is the military coming to rescue us? When is the U.S. military coming? And I'm like shocked. I had no idea. But so I held this press conference, and while I was there, the former director of their CIA, they call it the NIS, gave me this preprint of a book. And it says, the preprint says, Color Revolution in Seoul, How a Free Republic Was Engineered Towards Communist Capture. In other words, the country has been pre-engineered. And he handed me this book, and I started reading it while I was there. And lo and behold, it's an English preprint. It hasn't appeared in print yet. Probably coming out on Amazon this month or next or something like that. It's a history of our country. It's how our country is being engineered for communist takeover. It's Color Revolution. And the first time I ever heard that term Color Revolution was when I was being filmed by Mr. Lindell for that first documentary made about my work back in 2021. Mm-hmm. And I was with Kurt Olson, former Navy SEAL. And he was explaining to me, Dr. Frank, here's how a color revolution works. I'm a physicist. I don't know this political stuff. And he was explaining, and lo and behold, I witnessed with my eyes a color revolution in Korea. They took over. Now, something amazing happened there. If you put the slide back on, I'll show you.
Yep, here we go.
Something amazing. I didn't, during that quiet time when I was also touring. This is the Ministry of Information and the NEC, that's the National Election Commission. It is my habit as I travel to take pictures of selfies and post them online so people know where I am, what I'm doing, because I'm always on the 25 out of 30 days a month I'm on the road. And then I visited AWeb, and that's, I think, what I'm trying to get at here, but you need to understand. And I took this picture and posted it, and I didn't realize it was a faux pas for me to do that in South Korea. They are ashamed of AWeb. It's been under national disgrace. They found all kinds of nepotism involved, all kinds of corruption involved. For me to bring attention to it is kind of embarrassing to them. But the next day, their conservative magazine, they only have one conservative magazine left, featured me on the cover. And basically what they're saying is, Dr. Frank is here investigating AWeb. And that was a big deal. And then something occurred to me. This is the point. I needed to set the context for you so you'll understand. Then I remembered something. I remembered Mr. Lindell's movie in 2021, where he showed in absolute proof all this electronic communication coming from other countries into America, in and out of America, actually. And guess where the two places are in the East? Huawei, China, and AWeb, South Korea. And that is basically going into every county in America. There's central control. So everybody likes to talk about Venezuela, but I don't see any Venezuelan arcs there, do you? In other words, the real-time manipulation, there's one. The real-time manipulation is mostly happening from China and from South Korea via AWeb. AWeb is like the international export hub that China uses. And so that's why Trump is talking so much about China and foreign interference in his speeches. That is a key element of what's about to happen in America, and it's important that people understand that.
So look at this map for a minute. We're going to zoom in on a couple things, but notice that there are two main hubs coming out of what appears to be China or the Pac Rim. And Dr. Frank just relayed that one is Wuhan, and the other appears to be the area where AWeb is located. That's going to be important to understand. Notice that little is coming out of Venezuela. There does appear to be something, but not nearly the volume that you see in these other locations. We're going to show this in more depth in a couple of minutes, but let's move on and see his next segment.
People think that China's not involved. Last year, Kash Patel even noted that President Trump has been declassifying all this stuff now. Kash Patel noticed that 1 million fake driver's licenses and 1 million fake ballots, all printed in China, had been shipped to America via AWeb. And these 1 million ballots, this example, were seized just outside of Detroit. Now, wait a minute. Why would they print 1 million fake driver's licenses? Why would they print 1 million fake votes? Because they're going to flip ballots? No, because they're going to stuff ballots. And people have seen this graph. I'm just going to draw it again so that people can see it again. People have seen this graph all the time. You know, the fraud graph.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody always wants to say, oh, the machines are flipping ballots. Wrong. That is not flipping ballots. That is adding ballots. That is stuffing ballots. And the example that Kash Patel gave last year is just one example of several that we have. Where, and I mean, in Pennsylvania, back in 2021, when I was doing this work, remember the story about the 200,000 ballots that were shipped from New York to Pennsylvania? Mm-hmm. When the election shut down in those 6 swing states and then rebooted, when the election rebooted, ballots hadn't been flipped. Ballots had been added. That's why the voter rolls, having dirty voter rolls, is so important. They've created this huge credit line of names that can be used to stuff ballots. And that's what these licenses are all about. So I just want people to understand, a lot of times we talk about flipping ballots, but that's very rare. We have done multiple recounts. You know, I always tell people, it doesn't matter how many times you count the cash in the register, right? You can count the cash in many times as you want. What matters is how many of the bills are counterfeit.
So once again, think carefully about what you just heard. That chart, that picture that we've all seen so many times since 2020, indicates addition, not simply flipping one race for the other. What examples do we know of that? Well, one is when Raffensperger went on air the morning after the 2020 election and said, oh, we're almost done. We've only got X percent left to go, which was a small number. And all of a sudden, he went black screen. He got pulled off the air. And when they finally did complete counting, what did they have? They had hundreds of thousands of additional ballots show up. How could that be? Well, you just heard how it could be. So next, Dr. Frank is going to describe what actually happened during the election itself. This is particularly fascinating because they made a mistake in South Korea and they tipped their hand. Let's show how that happened.
It's a mistake to do a recount because what will happen is you'll just recount the same fraudulent ballots. The numbers come out the same, and then everybody says, see, we told you there's no fraud. No, it just makes us look bad. What you need to be auditing is, I mean, I'm not against auditing the counts. That's important. What you need to be auditing is the voters. Every ballot that you counted, did it come from a real voter? Oh, gee, that one came from a dead person. Oh, that one came from somebody who's also voting in this other state. In other words, that is how you can prove fraud. That's why that's what I do around the country. I teach people how to find fraud that way. So anyway, this whole international point, I thought I was going to have, put my slide back up if you don't mind. I thought I was going to be, having to make graphs and convincing South Korea that they had fraud because I was analyzing the early voting. Let me give you one example of the early voting because this is exactly what's happening in America. By the way, Morse Tan said to me, like the 3rd or 4th day I was there, the former ambassador, he said, Dr. Frank, he says, you are absolutely brilliant. He says, you figured out South Korea just like that. How did you do that so quickly? You're amazing. And I said, it's exactly the same in America. That's how I figured it. I already figured it out in America, and the exact same things that are happening here are happening there. How can it be the same everywhere, all around the world? AWeB. But we'll come back to that. So what we are doing is they all vote in person in Korea. They can vote anywhere they want in the country in the Friday, Saturday early voting, but then they have to vote only locally on Wednesday. So what we're doing is we posted a whole bunch of volunteers outside of the precincts all around the country, counting the number of people going into the voting places. And then that is reported hour by hour. So here's an example of hour by hour. That's the number of people that went in to vote. And then the red curve is the number of people who are reported as having voted, how many ballots were cast. So they have about 15% more ballots being cast than people who actually voted. Exactly what I found in America. And we found this in precincts all over the country. So I was busy preparing all these graphs, thinking that I was going to have to convince the South Koreans about fraud there, just like I've been doing here, because, that's typically what I do here. But something amazing happened. I didn't have to convince anybody because the government handed it to us on a silver platter. So what you got to understand about Korea is they live in these vertical villages. They live like tens of thousands of people live like this. That's not the way I like to live, but that's the way they like to live. And what happened is one of the precincts, and Juan Kyoan and I were driving around in the limousines, observing on election day. And one of the precincts reported that they ran out of ballots. Why would a precinct run out of ballots? Maybe there was so much cheating in the early voting that they ran out. And they contacted the NAC, the National Election Commission, and said, hey, we'd like to have more ballots. We ran out of ballots. The NAC said, we gave you plenty. That should be enough. And so the people are like posting on X. Everybody's on X, posting on X about them being run out. Guess what? We see that. We're 5 minutes from there. We drove over there. I got in front of the crowd there and I said, you shouldn't give them any of your ballots until they give you enough ballots so everybody can vote. And then Juan Kyoan got up and he said, and by the way, we want to look at those ballots before we hand them over because we think a lot of them are fraudulent. Even Trump showed up there, you notice. But it was amazing. And what happened is 10,000 people came down out of the towers and surrounded the building and said, we're not giving the government our ballots until, this is what it was like. We go together. They're all shouting. We had 10,000 people surrounding, and everybody's holding up a camera. It's weird. So that's like a snippet of somebody else's. I don't even know who did that. And the couple mornings later, we weren't giving the ballots to the NEC. We weren't letting him count them. The police showed up, and 400 police showed up early in the morning and pushed Hwang Kyo-ahn out of the way, pushed the people out of the way, went in and seized the ballots and took them. And that would never have happened in America because we would have guns. We wouldn't let them do that. But they don't have any guns. Nobody is armed there, not even the police. And so they pushed them all out of the way, went in, took the ballots. Now you have 10,000 very angry South Koreans who then joined the next precinct over where the police seized the ballots. By 3 days later, we had 1 million people protesting all over the country in 3 major centers. And this is at Pyeongtaek, where I first started. I spoke to about 500,000 people there. It was incredible. They're all shouting, Dr. Frank, USA, USA. Look at the audience out there. Look at the flags. They're American flags and Korean flags. They understand that they need us. And so, Hwang Kyo-ahn spoke, I spoke, Ambassador Tan spoke. This is what it looked like at Seoul Coliseum at night. It is an amazing thing to speak to that many hundreds of thousands of people at once. The country admitted that they screwed up the election. The head of the NEC had to resign in shame, which is a big deal. The bottom line is the people know the election was stolen from them. How do they know? They were denied a chance to vote. I didn't have to convince them. They were told, just give us the ballots you got. That's all we're going to count. So it was like, I didn't even have to convince anybody. It was amazing. That doesn't happen in America. Why? Because we always print way more ballots than we need. And so we never run out here. So they can always just have excessive turnouts in America. This is amazing. This is 200,000 college students protesting. And they were alternating their chants with singing hymns. So notice the flags, American flags, Korean flags. So the people there know that they are in trouble. Let's see, I have to stop that from happening. They know they're in trouble. There are 3 groups that are protesting. The young people are protesting because X was taken down while I was there to stop it. And they know that they're being controlled by the government. The old people are protesting because they remember the Korean War and what communism is like. And the churches are protesting because the churches realize that if communism takes over South Korea like it did in North Korea, they'll just slaughter all the Christians and close all the churches, just like they did in North Korea. So it's an amazing movement that's happened there. But the reason why this is relevant to Americans is because exactly everything that's been happening in South Korea is happening here.
Okay. Did everybody hear that? Exactly everything that's been happening in South Korea has been happening here. Let me give you an example. Thousands of extra ballots show up just days before the 2020 election in a warehouse in Fulton County directed to, I don't have his name in front of me, but one of the election deputy supervisors. Thousands ordered across the country just days before the election. Does that sound like getting ready to have more ballots available if needed? It does to me. All right, we're going to play one more piece, and this is going to be particularly poignant because it'll give you an answer about why this hasn't potentially already happened, and will ring true based on what you've seen the liberals and others argue for in the past couple of decades. So let's listen to this.
Already know that Congress is infiltrated because they can't even pass the SAVE Act. Come on,
that's right.
That's super obvious. So not only are your legislatures infiltrated, which I can show you a graph for every legislature, I can also show you a graph for the Congress. It is also totally infiltrated. We as a country, our courts are not in good shape, our legislature is not in good shape. We have been infiltrated. And it's basically, and I love what you're talking about. It's a Bezmenov revolution. You mentioned earlier on, Kennedy mentioned it. Yuri Bezmenov defected back in the, I think it was the 70s, and he's a KGB agent. And he basically laid out how our country was going to be engineered for takeover. So And he's right. And I was with Patrick Byrne recently, and he said, the only reason we haven't already been taken over by the communists is because we have so many guns. And I really think he's right. The Second Amendment is basically the only thing protecting the people right now.
The Second Amendment is the only thing protecting people right now. Why do you think that so many things have occurred, and as soon as they happen, people start calling for gun control, and especially control of semi-automatic weapons? Think it's coincidence? No. So how does this relate to Georgia? Well, you saw Dr. Frank talk about the map that showed incoming signals during the election that are going to counties across the country. Well, take a look at this. I went back and I looked at Mike Lindell's site and what they had reported, and there's a particular piece that spills has a message for Georgia. Take a look at this.
The last column, those document exactly the numbers of votes. It shows.
Hang on just a second. Let me pull this other one down. Okay.
This is Antrim County where the vote was stolen, and exactly the vote stolen at the exact time stamp of when they were stolen, and the numbers stolen at that point.
So, Mary, so what you're saying, Hal, is, and this is what I already know, but I'm learning a lot here as we go. What you're saying, every one of these lines, let's say we did take Antrim County, and we took that, we could pull out the timestamps for that county.
Look where all those landings are coming. What state is that? That's Georgia. He's going to talk to it in just a moment.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest Made in America sale ever. We just put huge discounts on products made right here in the USA. My Pillow bed pillows, body pillows, go anywhere pillows, bolster pillows, all made with my patented adjustable fill. Mattresses, mattress toppers, mattress pads, adjustable bed frames, mattress foundations, and so much more. All made right here in the USA. And now we're expanding our USA products beyond just quality sleep. Like the cross I wear every day, now available in both men's and women's. We even have USA-made socks. And are you tired of being tired? Try our new health beverage, Rev 7. Or how about my coffee, the greatest coffee ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get deep discounts on all these products. Plus, for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embra team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Fighting soldiers from the sky. Fearless men who jump and die. Men who mean just what they say. The brave men of the Green Beret. Silver wings.
Sorry about that. Welcome back to the Skip. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow, and a lot coming this week still. We got a really special interview out of Ukraine discussing all of that. That'll be later in the week, but a lot coming. So come back tomorrow, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday on the Skiff. And also, please sign up for our social, CDM_press on X right now. If you haven't done that yet, CDM_press on X, CDM1 on Rumble, and search for CDM Press on YouTube, and it will come up. And we need those numbers to grow. So please do that if you haven't done that. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today.